Hello, dear friends. Welcome once again in our virtual classroom. And today, the topic, the story we are going to discuss is Under the Banyan Tree by R.K. Narayan. It is a very interesting story and also it is very important one. We will try to discuss its summary, main themes, and other things also. Dear friends, first some words about the writer, that is Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Narayan, popularly known as R.K. Narayan, who is an internationally recognized novelist, and he is also the Grand Patriarch of Indo-Anglian writers. By Grand Patriarch, I mean to say that he is one of those earliest writers, including two other names, Mulkraj Anand and Raja Rao, who originally wrote in English language. However, among all these three, it was R.K. Narayan who gained not only critical but also popular acclaim. Dear friends, he is universally praised for unaffected standard English. Unaffected means very simple, which can be understood by a very, we can say, common level average person. And through this language, he captures the Indian sensibility, particularly the South Indian ambience. In fact, all of you who have read about him, we all know Malgudi days. Malgudi is a fictional town totally created out of imagination of R.K. Narayan, and it is basically a representative Indian, especially South Indian town. Dear friends, we know him as a novelist. His novel, The Guide, has also won Sahitya Akademi Award, and there are many other very popular novels like The Vendor of the Sweets and The English Teacher, Tiger of Malgudi. He has also published a number of volumes of short stories. Under the Banyan Tree and Other Stories is a superb collection of 28 tales, and these all, like most of his works, set in the fictional landscape of Malgudi. If we talk about this particular story, Under the Banyan Tree, it is the title story of this collection, and it originally appeared in an earlier volume, An Astrologer's Day and Other Stories, which was published in 1947, the year of Indian political independence. Actually, the story is of an old storyteller. His name is Nambi, and Nambi has this miraculous gift, a magical gift of telling stories in a way that it basically spellbounds his audiences. Nobody is able to move while Nambi is narrating his fabulous stories. So it is about this storyteller Nambi, his magical impact upon his audience, and what happens one day. Now, dear friends, the story is set in a small village of Somal, which is situated in the Mampi forest of Malgudi area. The village had a very little population. It has less than 300 people living there. They had a very poor hygienic system, streets littered with garbage, pools of stagnant water everywhere. So it's like a typical rural village where very few facilities are there related with hygiene and other things. Dear friends, there was only one common pond in the village, and this pond is used for all kind of activities like taking water for drinking purposes, bathing cattle in this water, washing clothes, and these all activities went on at the same time. So you can understand that it was quite, a risky or we can say unhygienic place. So obviously there was always fear of the spread of harmful diseases because of such filthy conditions of the village. Narayan very wittily says that it can sink the heart of any reformer looking at the pathetic hygienic conditions of the village. However, the significant thing is that there was no protest against such conditions, and the villagers seemed to be totally untroubled by their drab existence, by their drab condition. Uh, the reason behind their ignorance, or we can say they are not taking consideration of their poor surroundings, was the presence of Nambi, who is the storyteller among them. Now, dear friends, no, Nambi was actually quite an old person, but nobody knew exactly his true age. If when somebody asked him about his real age, he would not be able to tell directly, but he would rather refer to mention some old incident, some flood, or some other death of some other local person, and say that yes, I was there at that time when that flood came, the water came up to my thighs. So this was his basis of judging his height or age, something like that. So there is no particular information about him. Nambi was illiterate in the sense of modern education, but he was a master at making stories, and he composed every one month a new story, which took almost 10 to 15 days to finish narrating it to the villagers. There is no information when actually Nambi came to this village and started to live in the temple of goddess Shakti. He didn't have any worldly possessions. There were simply a couple of dhotis, and basically, whenever he felt hungry, he could go to any house in the village and people offered him food. And every evening, he was actually quite moody also. If he is in mood to talk, he would chat for a long time with fellow village persons, but sometimes he would just shoo them off and telling them, do you think that I don't have any business than talking with you people? I have to make stories, and then don't complain that I am not able to finish the story in time. And everyone went, okay, okay, please take your time, but be ready with your story on the exact time. Such was the, we can say, the role, the significance of Nambi's story. He spent most of his day in the shade of the banyan tree in the front of the temple, and he also undertook the duties of cleaning the temple, performing the puja, and on Friday evenings he serves as the temple priest for the villagers in the worship of the goddess. So this is the background of the story, how popular and how an important person Nambi was for the villagers of Somal. Whenever he felt hungry, he would go to any house, eat there. If he needed new clothes, the villager would provide him. So everything was going as very, smoothly. There was also a signal by him. When he was ready with the story, he would lit a small mud lamp in the trunk of a banyan tree situated at the front of the temple, which was this particular thing was a sort kind of symbol or signal for the villagers that Nambi is ready with a new story. The villagers, when they returned from the home after their daily routine in the fields, would see it and inform their families. And then, after dinner, everybody would gather in the front of the banyan tree. Wait, while Nambi would sit in the temple in deep meditation as if he is invoking the goddess to enable him to perform his storytelling session. After offering his prayers in the temple, Nambi would come outside, take his seat on a stone platform, and begin his story. And the villager will at that time the villagers would sit completely spellbound by his stories. He would describe in his great details the setting of his stories. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom and something like that, and always take his listeners with him to those far and distant places. Palaces, kings, ministers, everything was described in great detail. In fact, first 2 or 3 days they always took in describing these background details of the story. Building each story on an epic scale, he took several days to finish it, and he narrated continuously for 3 hours each night, describing every detail of the setting, the characters, the episode. His vivid imagination makes everything come alive for the audience who basically sit there like a child sitting with his grandparents or her grandparents with a dramatic modulation, which is that is high and low pitch of his voice. He even sings the song appropriate to the occasion. So it was quite a, we can say, a fanfare kind of thing. The story session would go on for almost 15 days as the villagers would sit there totally enchanted by his story. The day Nambi finished his story, everybody would go into the sanctum, the inner part of the temple, pay their homage to the goddess. And so this went on for long as the villagers become totally absorbed in Nambi's tales and they forget their otherwise poor existence. It so happened one day he started his new story, but he got stuck after first few lines. He tried to begin the story with a new beginning, but once again, after few lines, he was not able to continue. The audience, which was not accustomed to such awkward situation, tried to console him, saying that it may be that it is an off day, you are not feeling well. Nambi insisted that everything was fine with him, and they waited patiently for him to continue. It was now almost midnight. Nambi was not able to continue, and obviously, they gradually began to depart. When only his friend Mari was left, Nambi told him that he would resume his story the next day. He went into the temple and meditated the whole day, prayed to the goddess to assist him like she has always blessed him, assisted him. He felt that yes, now it's okay, and I will start the story the evening. He began to narrate his story and for almost an hour went on without any break in his typical fashion. And the villagers were also relieved that yes, our Nambi is again in his true form. And he was feeling relieved because he felt that he had not lost his spatial ability. However, soon again he felt lost for words. After stammering for a few times, he became silent. Now, this time the gathered crowd dispersed without a word. In the next few days, Nambi struggled hard to continue his story. The villagers also realized that Nambi was no more the storyteller they had known and loved. Only few would now come to listen him. When the new moon appeared next time, Nambi insisted that he wanted all the villagers to come. He personally went house to house telling them that I have to tell the greatest of my stories. At night, a great crowd gathered under the banyan tree, full of excitement and waiting for their favorite storyteller to once again enthrall them. Nambi then sat on his accustomed seat and told the villagers that it was the mother, actually goddess Shakti, who had given him the gift of the stories. Now the mother had decided to take back her gift. Nambi then said it was useless to try to struggle once the gift had been taken from him. As such, these were to be treated as his last words and his greatest story. The audience was totally nonplussed, confused by these statements, but they sat there and Nambi went into the temple, did not return. They were not able to understand what has just happened. Finally, tired of waiting, they left one by one. Some of them went into the temple trying to find out more details from Nambi, but Nambi gestured with his hands that he would remain silent. After this, Nambi was scarcely to be seen in the public. The remaining of his life was only a great unbroken silence. So, friends, this was the story. I hope you enjoyed it. You understand. This is, in fact, the role of fate is very important in this story. Please try to write your own views on it. We will soon meet on with next story. Thank you, friends.